I'd like to call the Financial Services meeting to order. I'd like to begin by acknowledging that we are in Mi'kma'ki, the ancestral and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people. Before we get started tonight, I'd like to acknowledge the passing of Jack Ferguson. Jack was on the farm his whole life in my area, down in Bayview, Bayford Farms, and he was involved as an active member of the Pictou North Colchester exhibition for over 60 years, and unfortunately he passed away. And so my thoughts are with his family and also the family of the young gentleman that passed away out your area, Mary, as well. So, anyways, I wanted to begin by acknowledging that because I know many of us around this table have sat on boards with Jack, and we're gonna miss him. So, okay. So I'm going to call for the approval of the agenda.
I'll move it.
Okay, second it? Okay, moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary-minded, nay. Motion carried. Any emergency resolutions this evening? Councillor Turner.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have an emergency resolution here. We are looking to add a new member to the Accessibility Committee. Her name is Nancy Chung. She lives down in Marykamish. And so I'd like to make a motion to get it on, or?
Yes.
Yes. I'd like to make a motion that we accept Nancy Chung to be an active member on our Accessibility Committee.
Okay, you have a seconder for that?
It's just added to the agenda.
Yes, just to add it to the agenda.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, just a motion to add it to the agenda then.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded.
Okay.
Any questions or comments on that? Okay, seeing none, we'll call for the vote. Oh, somebody?
Don't we add it to the agenda and debate it later?
That's what we're doing. That's the motion to add it to the agenda, yes. All in favor signify by saying aye. Contrary-minded, nay. Motion carried. So we'll add this as 8B. We'll call that Accessibility Committee. Membership update. Okay, we'll move on to number 5, errors, omissions, and corrections to the minutes of August 19th, 2024. Go ahead, Councillor Wadden.
It's not an error, it's just, can I ask a question on the minutes?
Absolutely.
Okay, I just said, when, on page 5, in the Internet and Sales Marketing Report, a request was asked for a build-out plan for the Internet to be distributed. If that was done, I didn't receive it. I'm just wondering if that has been done or if it's in the works.
I never received anything either, so I would assume it has not been done yet. Can we ask administration to get that out to us, follow up on that, and have that out to us as soon as possible? Okay, thank you. Warden Parker.
Thank you, Madam Chair. In the minutes, under my report, the warden's report, it reads that Warden Parker was pleased to attend the unveiling of the sign for Megan's Place in Westville on the same date that Megan passed away. Should say the same date 1 year later. It's
Okay.
not the same date, you know, that she died. It's the same date 1 year later.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you for that correction. And I'll put a final call out. Any other errors, omissions, or corrections to the minutes of August 19th? Okay, seeing none, we'll move along. Number 6, communications report, month of August. Any questions or comments on the communications report? Yes, go ahead, Councillor Dewar.
It's nothing to do with the report, it's the notice came out Friday, and it won't even come on down here tonight. It's still the same thing, just all that, I had no minutes or nothing. How do you fix that? There you go.
All good.
Well, it's,
Mine doesn't either.
thank you, that was.
Okay, so you're having internet, you're having your trouble with your email?
Yeah.
Yes, I am too. Mine's not sending emails. People aren't receiving my emails. You as well, Councillor Boyles? I saw you shake your head there in agreement. You having issues as well? Yeah. Okay. Make note of that.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. It is communication. Okay, seeing no Questions or comments? We'll move along to the recreation report for the month of August. Questions or comments? Go ahead, Counselor Wadden.
Just on the bikes for kids, it says 126 bikes successfully distributed across Pictou County, and the cost to replace each bike is just under $10. So this is a great program for the county to have, and I just want to say a special thank you to Cindy and Claire and their staff for doing such a good job. Thank you.
You're here. Any other questions or comments on the recreation report? Okay, moving along, Warden's report. Questions or comments on that? Mr. Warden, would you like to address your report?
No, I'm okay with what's there
Okay.
this time.
Okay. All right, moving along, we have the taxes receivable report. As you know, we're on our final collection for 2024. And October 15th, that's the date. So still waiting to collect some monies. Yes, go ahead, Counselor Boyles.
Just not sure which one to take it up in, or if there's one of them here, but I was just wondering about the tax sale, if we get anything on that, where it would come up at.
Okay. This is, I think we can address that now. It's part of the taxes.
Yeah, so we've got the title searches, or a portion of the title searches back, so we'll be now in the position to move forward with the 60-day notices for the sale.
Do you have to wait the 60 days to get before they can get who it is?
It's legislated, that's the time frame. Yeah.
Okay, thank you for the update. Any other comments or questions on taxes receivable? Right, moving along, deed transfer tax report, month of August. Questions or comments on that? Since you're still busy. All right, and also we'll move along to the final report not requiring motion was the outside boards review. Anybody have any comments or questions on that? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to number 7. Reports requiring a motion, and tonight we have one, which is the accounts payable for the month of August 2024. I need a motion, councilors. Moved by Councillor Wadden. Second by Councillor Elliott. Any questions on the accounts payable? Yes, go ahead, Councillor Wadden.
Thank you. I have a few, Madam Chair, if I'm permitted.
Absolutely.
The first one is on number 22850, Claims Pro for property damage. You know what that was for, where that was?
What's the number again?
22850, Claims Pro Inc.
That's the insurance claim for the property damage done at Scotsman to the lift station.
Okay.
It has to go through insurance if somebody had an accident up there, so it has to go through insurance.
Okay, thank you. And the next one, if I could, I just see 3 checks for John Rotting for the month of August. Was that just for the month of August, or is that for a certain time frame for him for contract services?
That's for more than the month of August.
Do you know approximately?
Be July and August.
July and August, okay, thank you. And KAW, it's number 22865. I don't know what KAW is.
That's a refund of a tax property.
A refund? Okay, thank you. And there's 2 there, I think, for the MOPC. One is 22873, and they're both for the same amount, 52030. It just doesn't say what they're for. 23057 is the other one.
What's the number?
22873 and 23057. I just figure it's a charge for something, it's the same amount.
2873 is taxes deducted from staff that go to the municipality.
Okay.
And what's the other one?
23057 is the same amount.
23?
23057.
That's the same amount.
Same?
Yeah.
Okay. And the Eddy Group, 22995.
That's for calcium that they purchase for the roads.
And that was spread on all the roads? Okay, good, thank you very much. Thanks, Karen.
Okay, thank you, Counselor Wadden. Any other questions? Accounts payable? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Contrary-minded, nay. Motion carried. Moving on to number 8, we have an update to an tax exemption policy. So this particular account number was previously owned by the trustees of the Knox Presbyterian Church, and as we know, that church is no longer active, if I'm correct, for quite some time out in Blue Mountain. Am I right saying that?
Property's been sold to.
Property's been sold.
Property's been sold and the new owners are.
Yes, or listed there.
Now, the property needs to be taxable because it's not being used by that organization.
Yes. Okay, motion's been made by Counselor Wadden. Okay, seconded by Counselor Palmer. I think I heard him first. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Contrary-minded, nay. Motion carried. Move on to 8B. We have the Accessibility Committee that Counselor Turner brought up tonight, addition to membership.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to make a motion that we name Nancy Chung from Mary Commish, become a member of the Accessibility Committee. Got a little brief synopsis of who she is. She's a First Voice community member residing in Mary Commish, who's an active member for our local YMCA and participates in a wide variety of recreation activities and events in the county throughout the years. She'd be a wonderful addition to our committee and look forward to hearing her perspective and having her assist in moving our work forward. So I'd like to make a motion that she becomes a member of our committee, Accessibility Committee.
Okay, thank you. We have seconder? Okay, seconded by Counselor Butler. Questions or comments? Yes, go ahead, Counselor Butler.
If I could comment, Madam Chair, in support of Nancy. I know her. Nancy is an amputee, and she is very active and would be an excellent addition to the committee.
Okay, thank you. Seeing no, oh, go ahead, Counselor Parker.
Please excuse my voice and my ignorance. What does it mean to be a first voice?
Does anybody know that? Oh, go ahead,
I
Counselor.
don't, but I presume that a first voice is somebody that can speak to the issues because of accessibility issues, that they have accessibility issues. I would presume that's what that means. Yeah, life experience.
They're living that, yes. They're living accessibility issues, yes.
I would presume that's what that means.
Okay. Seeing no further comments or questions, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Contrary-minded, nay. Motion carried. Motions of reconsideration. Don't believe we have any of those this evening, do we? No. Okay, next I'll need a motion to go in camera. Moved by Counselor Palmer. Seconded by Deputy Warden Murray. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Contrary-minded, nay. Motion carried. We are back in camera. Give you a second there, Adam. Okay, meeting is adjourned.
There we go. There we go. Thank you, Brian. I'd like to call the Proper Services meeting to order. First, I'd like to begin by acknowledging that we're on the Mi'kmaq, the ancestral and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people. Next is approval of the agenda. Moved by Councillor Boyles, secondly Councillor Elliott. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Count my nay. Motion carried. Is there any emergency resolutions? Any emergency resolutions? Any emergency resolutions? Seeing none, we'll move.
I don't know if it's an emergency resolution or not, but I talked to Adam the other day about the, when you're given the land acknowledgement, they've done a webinar on that, and the natives are asking that they stop turning around and doing it 2 and 3 times and everything, because it's just like saying, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, you don't mean it, you know, and so I don't know if you got to look into it, but it's something we should be looking into.
It's something that staff, it'll be up to staff, right? This is a separate meeting, right? So we have one, the finances, is property services, so it's 2 separate meetings, so I don't know how they want to do that, but staff will look into it, see if we're doing it correctly. Okay, is there any errors, omissions, or corrections to the minutes of August 19th? Councillor Elliott.
In the motion, it says, put the onus back on the province to expand housing on Mill Road. Well, I'm pretty sure when I spoke about it, I wanted the onus put back on the province to take back the road, because I was concerned there is a need for housing, and we shouldn't overlook the opportunity to expand housing on Mill Road. It wasn't to
What motion
expand
was that,
housing.
sorry?
When we had the discussion over the Mill Road condition, so that they could subdivide and make more driveways, and the condition off the road.
Oh, yes.
In the final motion, it says, I move that we put the onus back on the province to expand housing. That's not what the motion was. It was to put it back on the province to take ownership back of the road so that we wouldn't miss an opportunity for housing on the Mill Road.
Okay, a change will be made.
Thanks.
Okay. Okay, any other errors or omissions or corrections? One more time, errors, omissions, or corrections? Seeing none, we'll consider those minutes approved. Next are reports not requiring a motion. First is the Director of Public Works and Development. Any questions for the Director? Councillor Boyles.
Yeah, I was just wondering if there's any more been done on the Ed McDonald Road there, where I check, you know, what's happening there.
Thank you, Councillor Boyles. No, we haven't had anything further than we had in our phone conversation, but it's something that we can look at with the province there too. So it might be worth a follow-up discussion if you'd like. It might be worth a follow-up discussion if you'd like sometime this week, if that's possible. Feel free to call me anytime. Yep. Or come see me. Yeah. Thanks.
Warden Parker.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Number 4, the Blue Acre sidewalk design. Final CBCL design drawing package has been approved by the Public Works, currently being reviewed by the Environment, I guess that is. Tender documents have been finalized. Have we were going to be gotten back to or whatever about the changes that they were making in terms of safety and also the cost. You know, where's the cost at, you know, in terms of the 2 things I've brought up over and over with this is safety and cost. And it sounds like it's ready for tender, and we haven't seen any changes that have been made, or I don't think we have, in terms of safety improvements or what that's going to cost. I think that's part of the picture here at some point.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Warden, and Mr. Chair, through you. We have gotten updated costing, and we have gotten some updated safety elements. Maybe I'll start with the safety. Safety improvements are going to be handled through painting and delineation of the crosswalks themselves. So we've abandoned the idea of including raised pedestrian islands. That was as a result of our correspondence with the Provincial Department of Public Works for the sake of truck turning into the intersection on the East River East Side Road. So we are adjusting curb lines and crosswalk locations to make them safer. So that's the safety element. And then we can provide the updated draft drawings to council if that would be of assistance. Certainly happy to do that. As you mentioned, they're currently with the Department of Environment now. We've gotten our approval from the Provincial Department of Public Works. So now our final hurdle is the Department of Environment, and it's a fairly minor approval just because of new catch basins and stormwater piping. They have to review it, and that was sent a couple of weeks ago, so we would expect to get our confirmation back from them soon. With regards to the costing, our original cost estimate was $400,000. The latest costing that came through from our consultant is $640,000. So it's more than 50% over the original budget. Most of that, or about half of that, is accounted for in terms of retaining walls, the additional retaining walls that were required because the Provincial Department of Public Works in their standard cross sections require us to put our sidewalks behind the columns at the underpass, and therefore it eats into the sloped retaining area behind those columns, and therefore we need the retaining walls. So $120,000 or so of that extra 240 is made up from those retaining walls.
Okay, just that when we were making decisions on this, we said if the cost, is relatively the same, which was, I thought it was $300 to $400, but I forget, it's somewhere in that range. But and I accept the fact that there's increased cost for safety, and really there is increased safety. I think if you go behind those posts, if you're walking, otherwise you're right there where the traffic is. If somebody loses control or something with the post, you do have some increased safety. I still have some concerns about the length of the crosswalks, and that's why we looked at the islands. But I understand they ruled those out for traffic reasons. But that is a long cross for people with disabilities or for people who are getting up there in years. It's a long ways across. And I'm wondering about, I still wonder about the safety of people trying to make it all the way across there. And I don't know if anything else was looked at. You said painting of the lines, or?
Yeah. So, and I will say that the crossings are slightly shorter than the informal crossings that we have now, just by nature of the alterations of the paint line locations and alterations to the curb lines. So they are slightly shorter, but they're still pretty
long
oblong. And you are right about the safety element with regards to placing the sidewalk behind those columns at the overpass. That's a provincial requirement. That's why their cross-section is laid out the way it is, so that it moves you farther off the road. If those columns weren't there, we wouldn't have to be that far back, but because they're there and they're not going to move those, we were left with no other choice than to go behind them while meeting the provincial cross-section requirement.
Okay, I'd just like to see it come back and with the drawings and whatnot that we're looking at and what the cost is, and then we vote on it as a council based on those costs, because before we were basing the vote or whatever based on the costs that we had before. Thank you.
Certainly, we can make those available. Yep.
Councillor Thompson.
So this issue comes up every week in my district. And every week people are asking when this is going to get tendered. And I don't think the drawings need to come back to our council for us to nitpick and go through them. None of us around this council table have any idea about how to design a sidewalk. There's civil engineers that do that work. And as far as the cost goes, tender it and see what the market will take. Tender the project and see what comes back, instead of just doing this, supposing this and saying, well, we shouldn't touch it because the cost may be too great. We have liability in Blue Acres. Our insurance will be shocked to see us not fix this problem. It's a liability issue. It's a lawsuit, another lawsuit waiting to happen, because there have been some in the past. And this needs to be tendered, period. I don't want to see a drawing back here. I just want the sidewalks in. That's all everybody wants. We'll probably never, not one of us in this room will ever use that because we all have a car. But this is for the people out there that don't have transportation. They walk, and they're walking, and they're being forced onto the road in the wintertime because you can never keep that clear of ice and snow or mud and muck. You get stuck in there. Just tender it.
Okay. Anybody else? Warden Parker.
Number 20, water and sewer lateral requests. MOPC has addressed various active water and sewer lateral requests. MOPC staff beginning the process of installing protective required. Oh, sorry. But I'm not sure why that one's, well, I have a question on it, but I'm not sure why it's in there, other than we always get requests for when somebody builds a new house or whatever to put a lateral to get to the sewer or the water. But I'll ask my question then. I just don't understand it the way it is, but our cost when somebody builds on the opposite side of the road or whatever is getting extreme for these laterals. I think 14,000 isn't unreal. At what point do we consider how much of that cost goes to the general taxpayer, which is where it's going, and how much goes to the individual? I think it's still at, is it 2,500 or whatever for the individual? And yet the cost of these has doubled or more. You know, I think at some point we need to have a look, maybe not just at the laterals, but at how much is borne by each side here, because the costs, I know when I sign checks and I see them, you know, it's an unreal amount every time somebody's building a house and it's on the wrong side of the pavement. The cost sharing needs to be reviewed, I think. But.
Yeah, thank you. And if I can respond to that through you, Mr. Chair. I guess first, I chose to start including these a couple of months ago just to have them on paper as showing that we're doing them. I didn't have the full tallied amounts because of my time away, but the idea here is to put the number that we've done over that time frame.
Okay, that's why it's there.
Yeah, with regards to the costing, you are correct that costs are well above the cost that we recoup for the payment. So water fees, we charge $1,600, so $50 of which is in $50 upfront processing fee and $50 administration fee, and then sewer we charge the $2,500. So we're $1,600 and $2,500, but in a best case scenario, even if we're on the good side of the street and we're into say a gravity situation with the sewer, it's still costing us in the range of about $3,000, $3,500 normally. When we're on the opposite side of the road, it costs us about $10,000 to directional drill underneath the road because the provincial Department of Public Works doesn't want us opening up the roads. So we have to directional drill. And then if it's in a pressurized situation where we need an E1 pump, that's another $10,000. So for residential lateral, these are rough numbers, obviously, but we sometimes are looking at pushing $20,000 and recouping $2,500. And that's not terribly uncommon. But those are the types of numbers we're looking at. So I guess just for council's consideration on any ideas about changing those fees, that's sort of what we're looking at.
And I'm just bringing it up tonight so that, because I see it when it's on the checks, or Wayne sees it when it's on the checks, but it really is an unfairness to the general taxpayer at some point if it gets too far out of whack. And that seems to be what's happening here, and we need to look at what we charge, I think, and see if it's fair to everybody all around.
And if I may, just as a closing remark, it was raised by a couple of residents out of Larry's district recently about the costs not having gone up for a period of time, where, you know, I think the folks that had spoken to me had connected 5 or 6 years ago, something like that, and they were a little bit surprised when they found out the costs hadn't gone up, because that was sort of their understanding, was that they would, rightly or wrongly, that was what they had said, was that they had understood that they would probably eventually go up. So they better connect now so that they wouldn't go up in the future. But anyway, it is a remark that I got about 2 weeks ago.
Okay, Councillor Dave Parker.
Thank you. On that point about trying to be equitable, if you live in a non-serviced area, and that would be the majority of our residents, and they're building a new home, or even upgrading the one they have, you can expect to pay between $10,000 to $15,000 to have a new well drilled, pump installed and hooked up. If you build a new septic system, you're looking at $15,000 to $20,000. So on the high end, you're at $40,000. Or someone that's in a serviced area, we're looking at a high end of about $4,000. Something desperately wrong here. We're asking the majority of us that don't want to live in a suburban area to subsidize those who get a better rate. It's just, there's only one word. Well, no, there's two. Unfair and unacceptable.
Okay. Councillor Wadden.
I thought we had discussed this last year, that we were going to put it on an agenda at some point. So I really think, I don't know, can we have this put on a future agenda for a property meeting to have a full discussion and have the cost and what is actually costing us and what we're getting paid to put those in, but move forward on this because it is a huge concern out there.
Okay. That'd be something we'll probably at the next council we'll put it on the agenda. Yeah. Councillor Butler.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Item number 18, the Riverton Development RFP. I'm wondering if you can share any additional details with us. For example, are we talking about all of the land mass that comes under Riverton Farm? What type of interests are being expressed as well?
Yes, thanks for the question. Again, through you, Mr. Chair. We've had multiple expressions of interest in the land immediately across the road from the existing Valley View Villa, just the front lot between the road and the train tracks. So that's the piece of property that's included for consideration in this possible RFP. We've received about 4 expressions of interest from different development companies in doing housing developments on that piece of property. And we've told them that we appreciate receiving the interest, but it would need to go back to council for consideration. And hence why we're considering putting out this RFP for potential development of those lands. So certain draft stipulations that we have in this RFP draft that we put together would require leaving 2 accesses on either end of the property to access the rear lot that we have between the train tracks and the river, either for just to save or for future use by the municipality, as well as a section where our existing sewer lift station is located. And the remainder, the developers who have spoken to me or reached out to me have expressed their interest because of the location, its proximity to Stellarton, sidewalks, sewer, water, the school, yeah, those types of things. And it's just, the expressions of interest seem to start ramping up all of a sudden. We had one sort of legacy one from a couple of years ago, and then 3 more have come through more recently. And they're considering, those that have reached out have suggested developments in the range of about 70 to 100 residential units in the form of apartments, and they're varying ideas around what types of units they would put in. A series of 4plexes, apartment buildings, single-family residences, those types of things. But it's gone no further than the expression of interest in the draft RFP. Thank you.
Okay, anybody else? Councillor Dorr.
I guess that, it's like rolling rocks over, there's snakes under the rocks all the time, right? So this has been going on for years, and I dealt with you and dealt with other people with the same mindset as yourself. It's just because it's vacant and they have nowhere else to go, and they think they're going to get it for nothing. Well, if we would sell it to them for what some company would want for it, instead of fair market value, which is farmland, which would add up to be nothing, then if you got, say, well, if there's 9 acres there, well, it should be worth $9 million, would just say, okay? But I know it's not, but I mean, if they think they're going to get it for nothing, that's why they're keeping trying and trying and trying. And it's just so nice to have something that's not got a bunch of 4plexes or stuff like that piled on them. And the last time that we talked about this, there was even talk that there was people that would buy it to keep it from happening. And somebody come up with a thing, well, you couldn't do that. That wouldn't be right, because about the tax money. So I guess maybe if we're going to do something like that, even think about selling that fine looking piece of property, the people should have some say, not just a few people here. I think there should be a plebiscite about it or something for the residents that are, just like Councillor Parker just said, they're just looking for a deal. And that's what it's going to be, a deal, because there's natural gas, there's water, there's sewer, there's sidewalks. And they'll get it for nothing. Thank you.
Okay. Just on that point, if we are selling that lot, it would come back to council to accept a price or not, right? So it'll be up to us as councillors if it's a good deal or not.
Yeah, certainly. No, if any RFP were to go out, then yeah, it's got to come back to council.
And if
for
it came back
consideration.
$5,000, we wouldn't accept it. We'll just leave it the way it is. So it'd be something I think this council will look at, something fair market value. So, but anyway, anybody else got any questions for Logan? Councillor Dorr.
Well, you're just saying the same thing that was said before about fair market value, okay? Let's say my house and your house, we know what the tax bill is, okay? But when it comes up for sale, it'll be $750,000 for something that's worth $350,000. That's fair market value? No, that's not fair market value. And it's the same as what they said the land was worth at the villa, behind the villa, our land. Like, there's 2 different things there. If it's farmland, that's X amount of dollars. But if there's a chance to make big money, it should be big money, not fair market value.
I guess what I was saying, Councillor Dorr, is that it's up to this council whether we accept that price or not.
Yes, but
It's really-
not at fair market value.
Well, whatever the value is, right? So, whatever the going rate is, so.
So fair market value is what a willing buyer and a willing seller agree is the price. That is by definition fair market value. So the council will have to decide, if somebody says it's worth 5,000, the council will have to say, to your point, if it's not being used as farmland. Right, but you're saying, to your point, you're right, it's not worth $5,000 because their intended use is not necessarily farmland, so it could have a higher price. So council has to decide what that price is.
Warden Parker.
I agree that fair market value, like Brian said, is what a willing buyer and a willing seller agree on. We're the seller, so we don't have to agree to any price that comes before us. You know, it's got value. It's sort of like the time they tried to take the land in front of Glenhaven Manor and put it for a parking lot. Sometimes an empty lot has a lot of value too. Aesthetics or environment or whatever. It's not always how much pavement and how many brick buildings you can put up. But if we're short of land for housing, then the province is pushing everybody to almost give land away for housing. I don't think we want to do that in case of that piece of land. Sounds like there's more than one party interested for sure, which is no different. You go to an auction, if there's more than one party interested, up goes the price. But there is value in having it empty, and there's certainly value tax-wise in having something there. But it has to fit in with the environment, and we decide that here, if it's something that's going to fit in with the environment that's there, and if it's going to bring in tax dollars and also be a good-looking property, then it's something we consider. But it's us that decides in the end, like the chair said, if we want to sell it or not at whatever price. But I think we have to be very careful, whatever we do, that we take into consideration, as Chester's already said, the residents in that area and stuff too. So it's a fairly complicated issue that we need to make sure we look really good at, I think. Thank you.
Okay. There we go. Thank you. Okay, stay away from it. There we go. Just on the McClellan's Brook Cove water project, is that going, how's that going? Where's that stand right at the moment? I've got a number of calls on it, so let's.
Yep. Thank you for the question. Yes, Mr. Chair, we've advanced the design work. We've got the horizontal and vertical design pretty well completed to our consultant. We've additionally completed further hydrant flow tests in the area, because the remaining significant piece of work from an engineering design perspective is the hydraulic design. So that's what's being worked on right now. We're dealing with 3 different pressure zones, and it causes challenging, or complicated rather, hydraulics. So that's what's going to determine costs around whether or not we need pressure boosting stations, pressure reducing valves, air relief valves, those types of things. So
Is that because of the addition of the fire hydrants, or is that for water, for residential water?
No, it's not because of the addition of fire hydrants. It's because the Priestville end of the system and the McCollins Brook end of the system are in different pressure zones, and they're controlled differently on the New Glasgow side in the 2 different locations. So we need to make sure that we're protecting both our infrastructure and thereby also protecting the town of New Glasgow's infrastructure, to make sure that we don't have our pressure zones fighting against each other, that kind of thing. We also have to make sure that we're within operable pressures on either end of the line.
Just one more question. What approximate date do you think you'll be going for tender?
I spoke with our consultant, and we have bi-weekly design meetings, and they believe that we would be done the hydraulic design within about a month. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. We'll move on. The next is the Development Officer's Report. Any questions? Seeing none, we'll move on. Emergency Services Report. Questions? Seeing none. The Fire Inspector's Report. Next is the Building Inspection Report. And the last one, the Bylaw Officer's Report. Deputy Warden.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On the bylaw officer's report, I have a unsightly and dangerous on the Condon Road in Scottsburn. It was reported a year ago, and I think it's likely going to have to come down. But I don't see anything on the report. I wonder, could we find out what's going on there? The people in the area are starting to ask questions, what's going to happen to it, so.
I think we'd have to direct that to Evan.
Evan, yeah.
But we can certainly relay that to him. Thank
Okay.
you.
Could you relay that and get back to the deputy?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Dave Parker. Councillor Dave Parker.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is an issue that has been going on, excuse me, for more than 3 years. And there's really been no effort to resolve it. The gentleman who's made numerous complaints, including recording dog barking during the middle of the night, has been totally respectful, but he's frustrated. After 3+ years, nothing's happened. The place is very, very rural. I guess it'd be in the community of West River Station. And I had emailed Evan asking him to bring an update this evening, but he's away. So hopefully at our October meeting, he will be bringing people up to date on it. So far, there's been no action. And the home, I use that term loosely, that's the complaint centers around, is usually vacant. The dogs are left to protect whatever is in that building. They're malnourished. I think they've been seized at least once by the SPCA because of neglect. But it is a serious situation, and it reflects our, I'm talking about the county generally, ineptitude towards dealing with dangerous and unsightly complaints. It shouldn't take 3+ years. There should be action long before that. This one's as cut and dried as you can get, okay? And yet we have more excuses for doing nothing. And the people who are perpetuating this situation don't have to worry about us because we don't do anything about it. And yet the person who has repeatedly filed complaints is very, very frustrated. I just want you to be aware that should be coming at you in October. I was hoping it would be here tonight.
So I guess Evan will get back to you, and you'll know in advance of us knows, okay?
Thank you.
So,
I just wanted to give fair warning.
okay. Is there anybody else? Seeing none, we'll move on to business items requiring action. First is streetlight approval at 24 Monroe Avenue Extension. Councillor Turner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I had a request from a gentleman, Mr. Holmes, on 24 Monroe Avenue Extension, that a street light be put on a pole just outside his driveway, so he'll have better visibility going in and out of the driveway. So I'd like to see that happen. Second it?
Moved and seconded. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Count of voting nay, motion carried. Next is brush trimming at intersections. Councillor Boyles.
Yeah, I was just wondering, I have a lot of complaints, and not even complaints. I turn around and seen them firsthand driving from different areas in the county, that you're pulling out of roads, you can't even see nothing coming, and it's, we had one bed went out in Walkerville there that we, we got looked after, to Big Hearts helped out, which was good. And as I say, I just want to know if we could write a letter to the DOT and ask them, can they cut the, just back far enough so they can see if people are, there's vehicle coming or not, because it's not only vehicles that can end up pulling out in front of a car. It could be very well be a child turn around and not see a car coming and run out in front of it. So I'm just asking if we could write a letter and ask them would they at the intersections would they try and cut back a little bit on the foliage, excuse me.
So you're making that a motion? Okay, who's first there? Councillor McKeel. Moved and seconded. Is there questions on it? Councillor McKeel.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I understand your frustrations, and I agree with what's going on. We just received brush cutting on our sides of our road that we've been waiting for all year. Residents have been calling since July, wondering when it's coming, and I mean, it just happened this week. And the sides of the roads have been an issue. I know it may not be the same thing as the foliage on the trees, but it shouldn't be happening in September. It should be happening earlier. And I know that everybody's pressed with time and employees and everything else, and I get that. But it's a safety concern. And when we have safety concerns for our residents, like you said, there's lots of animals out where I live, lots of deer, people trying to walk, to have any sort of exercise whatsoever. It's very, very difficult, and it is a safety issue because people have nowhere to go, especially when there's a guardrail and the grass is up to your waist. What do you do? So I think it's very important that we get our foliage trimmed and get our side of our roads done within a timely manner, right across the board, because it's such a safety issue, and I'm just scared that something's going to happen because it wasn't cut. So I completely support this motion. Thank you.
Warden Parker.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to make sure we're sending the letter addressing the right issue, because they trimmed all along our road back in July, I suppose, sometime, and went back 5 or 6 feet, whatever it was. But, and in some areas it was needed, and probably others it wasn't. But what I'm understanding Councillor Boyles to talk about is where the intersection of one road with another, and you can't see what's coming, which is different than just doing. I'm sure they're going to get back to us and say, well, if we had more resources, had more people, we'd get this done. But it's always a good idea to send a letter and remind them. But is it mostly at the intersections of roads, through you, Mr. Chair, that this motion is about? Or is it about mowing the whole roads?
No, okay, I'll take my road, for instance. They come up, they did trim the grass. It's the best I've ever seen it trimmed. Yeah. They really did a good job. But they went under the trees. The trees is all still out on the middle of the road. So when you're looking down, all you're seeing is trees. And if they just turn around and what they did other years was turn their blade, go in and cut that stuff off. Bingo. People will be able to see down the road. So it's just that, when you look the where the foliage is growing out, like it's branches and that growing out on, that you can't see nothing coming until you pull right out on the road.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Councillor Dave Parker.
I have had some success in getting this issue addressed in my district. I go at it on a case-by-case basis. I write to Keith McDonald with my concern, and I carefully explain which intersection and what the issue is with that intersection. I'll use the Montreal Road and Highway 289, also known as the Gerlach Road. You come down the Montreal Road, a fairly significant hill, and a stop sign at the bottom of the hill. You can see well to your left, halfway to Westville. But to your right, there were bushes in the way. There's a little roll in the road right there, not a lot, but enough to hide a vehicle. And if you come to a complete stop and then start out of there, and a vehicle pops up out of that roll, well, there's an issue, okay? So I carefully explained that, and I always use the word dangerous. Okay, I think they're compelled. If they're warned of a dangerous situation, they're compelled to do something about it. Anyway, about a week, 10 days later, they were out with their bush saws, and they flattened all those bushes back 100 feet or so. So I've had some success using that approach. Case by case, carefully explain it, politely request, and use the word dangerous. And you seem to get some action. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else? So everybody understands the motion? It's the right department? Vote clearing the intersections? Okay. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Count by nay. Motion carried. Next is road maintenance work from town line in Linacy to Cove Road. Councillor Boyles.
Yes, they're doing the recap, and I guess it's just a thin layer of pavement they're going to put on from the New Glasgow line down through Linacy down to the Cove Road. But the big problem with, they're not going to fix any culverts. They're not going to. It's just put this on, and as the people in Linacy and Pine Tree and that are saying that it's something that might last 5 years. Where if they done the full meal deal, they call it, you'd be looking at 20 or more. And it's there's some culverts there that should be replaced. I mean, they're going to put this stuff in, and then we do have them working. They did decide, excuse me, that they would try and do something in front of the fire department, which is a very bad area for flooding and everything. So, but I mean, there's other areas along there that should be fixed too. So they asked me to bring it to council, and the big thing is, I guess out in, I think it's Telford, they said, no, if I said wrong, I'm sorry, but I thought it was Telford. They said that they're doing the full meal deal, they call it. They're doing everything. They're taking the culverts, they're replacing them, they're putting the thicker pavement on and doing it right. But in Linacy, it's just going to be a little skim and nothing replaced that's gonna help. So I'd like to make a motion that we send a letter to the Department of Transportation. Ask them why. One section of Pictou County is not being treated the same as the other, and also I think a copy of that should go to our MLA for Pictou East, to Tim Houston. I mean, and the same question is why is one area being singled out for less than the other?
Okay, is there a seconder? Let's move and second it. Any questions on it? Just on that, there's a lot of jobs, not just that job. They're called maintenance pave, and they come in and they put a lift or two of asphalt on the road to keep it for a certain amount of years. Cross culverts on that road might have been done, I think, in 2003, so they figured that was probably, but there's only so much money to go around, so if they're going to do what you say, full meal deal, they would only do half of that road, right? So in my area, they're doing maintenance pave jobs too. They're just gonna pave the Hall Road, Hall Branch Road, Glen Road, and McCollum's Mountain, Glen Cove Road. They're just doing a maintenance pave over top of those roads, so. It's not just in that area, so I just wanna let you know that, so. Okay. Everybody know the motion? All those in favor, Deputy Warden, sorry.
And, Mr. Chair, sorry, just the motion that you made, Peter, is different than the one that was in the email?
Yeah, it says,
Yeah.
question to reconsider the work being done on the section of road between the town line, Linacy to Cove Road, to include complete asphalt work, ditching, and other tasks necessary to extend the life of the road for a long time.
Well, okay, we can go by that. Thank you, Wayne. That's you gotta. I got Sue to put it in for me. So yeah, it's just yeah. That speaks to it. Yeah.
I'll just speak on that. It's already tendered, it's already contracted out, so they're not going to change. They're not going to come back and say, yeah, we'll do that stuff, because the contractor's there. They bid on a certain thing, so they're not going to add those items to that contract, so.
Yeah, I understand that. I'm just doing what my constituents asked, to try to bring it and see if they would find out why they're not getting the same as Telford, and so I said I would, and it'd be interesting to find out why, I guess.
But so the motion here is different than that motion, so do you want to include that in the, like, there's two different motions there, right? In this motion, you're asking to reconsider the work being done, and all that. Your other motion, you're asking why.
Both. I'd like to try and have it both on the, you know what I mean, that, and add the other part to the why. Why is one part of Pictou East being sort of treated different than another? You know, it's just a question we have for them.
Okay, agreed with the seconder? Okay, agreed. Okay, all those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Count on my nay. Nay. Nays, raise your hand. 1, 2, 3 nays. Motion carried.
I think it would be fair to say this is a common concern we hear from residents, and therefore a common concern we hear from or through councillors. I'm saying that the department can and should do a better job on education. Here's the levels of paving. Here's the criteria, you know, just that we're often in the dark. Like, I know the Middle River Road, which was in horrific shape, and it's not a terribly busy road. It got done, I'm going to say, 5 years ago, and it was the full meal deal. Cross culverts, they had to dig out a huge, to replace a deep culvert, and people are happy, obviously. Then the next year or 2 years later, they did the 289, and it was only a maintenance pave. Now, it's the busiest road in our valley. It's what leads into Westville. And it just didn't make sense to me that one road that was not real busy, that wasn't in horrible shape, got the full meal deal, and the other road that's just very busy, and it was in poor shape, it only got a maintenance pave. Which means that 10 years down the road, it's going to have to be done again. But anyway, those things are not well explained.
Yeah, it's how much work you want to get, how many roads you want to get paved. If you want to put up with that road for the next 10 years the way it is and gets worse, then they'll do the full meal deals, and it just costs double or well more than double. So. Anyway, but that's not us. That's
There's an opportunity there to do more education.
okay. Next is road maintenance on Hidden Cove Road. Councillor Wadden.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's pretty self-explanatory in the write-up. Just that Logan and I met with the residents on Hidden Cove back in around the middle of August, and by that time they were satisfied with what had been done with the road. as far as the grading was concerned, but they waited all summer for that to happen. So their concern is that we're not tendering early enough for their summer maintenance and even their snow issues. And they're hoping that somehow we can start tendering earlier so that the road work will be done for them early in the springtime. They waited all summer for calcium to go on that road, so they had to put up with all the dust from this very dry summer. So it's a beautiful subdivision, beautiful homes in there, and the residents just want the municipality to look after it in a timely fashion and to have the right contractor do the job, and I think that's really important. And getting these contracts out earlier so that the work can be done early, or even late spring, early summer, just so that they don't have to keep calling Logan and myself to see when this work is going to get done. And also they were looking at possibly, instead of having just a single year contract, if there's any way we could have 2 or 3 years with the stipulation on that first year that we're satisfied with the work they were doing. And perhaps Logan can put some information in here to help with that concern they have.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Wadden, through you, Mr. Chair. So we had met, per Councillor Wadden's notes. There's really no reason why we couldn't tender a little bit earlier. We could probably move it up, say even a month might make a fair bit of a difference. We did move it up this year compared to where we were last year, but unfortunately, still timing for the construction work wasn't consistent around the entire county. So, and the option of whether or not to look at multi-year contracts is one that we can consider. We do it for our snow clearing operations, so there are different ways that we can do that might allow us to get greater certainty and greater confidence, I guess, in the different contractors. Every year we seem to have a couple of new contractors that bid on things as well, so having a multi-year contract like we do with the snow removal could potentially have benefits that way as well. We did work with a new calcium dust control provider this year, and I wouldn't say it was as successful as we would have hoped for, so we had to redo some roads. So we'll take that into consideration next year and in subsequent years as well. If there's anything else further, would you like clarification?
Do I have to make a motion to see that happens, or is that something that we let staff handle? It's just, they really want to see the work done in a timely fashion and done to a standard that is acceptable, which...
I'd make a motion to ask staff to look at getting it out sooner, the tenders out sooner, and to make it model year tenders.
Okay.
With stipulation that as long as they did a good job the first year, that they'll be carried on for I'd say at least a 3-year agreement, so.
Okay, I'll go along with that motion if that's possible.
Okay.
Thank you.
I would-
And I'll ask for a seconder.
Moved and seconded?
I would second that too, because I had the same problem in District 5. And it's like when you do roads in August, it's a little bit too late. And the people get upset, and there's a very good, nice subdivision, beautiful homes there. So, yeah, it should be a lot earlier. So I would second that.
Okay, Councillor McKeel?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I guess if we're giving out 3-year contracts and putting stipulations in that we don't like your work after, we don't like your work after the first year, maybe we should, like, are we saying that we can terminate it? Like, maybe we shouldn't be giving out 3-year contracts. I know it's nice to have stuff, taken care of for quite a period of time, but if we're not getting the quality of work and they're not meeting our expectations, we should be able to terminate those contracts, right? So that should all be in place within the contract already. So I think our motion is kind of taking care of something that's already in place. That would be my understanding. I will confer with you, Logan, but within that contract, it should say if they're not meeting expectations that the contract would be deferred, would be terminated anyways. Am I correct with that, Logan?
Yes, we are able to terminate contracts if they're not meeting our standards. And further to your point, Councillor McKeel, we actually currently have our winter road maintenance tender out. It's active, it's live right now. And we put that on for a 2-year with a possible extension of a 3rd year, if mutually acceptable between ourselves and the contractors for that 3rd year. So I guess the difference really comes down to, we have the control to terminate agreements when they're not meeting our standards, but we also have protections to keep their prices over the 2-year period instead of them raising them after the first year.
Okay. If I can continue, so if like on Councillor Wadden's request here for Hidden Cove Road, if the contractor in question is not living up to what's happening, like, do they know that? Have they been reached out to? They're aware of what's going on? Will they be terminated? Like, I think we have to set a precedent. If you're not doing your work, unfortunately, you know, I mean, we're having a contract with our people, and we want everything to go well, and we want our residents to be taken care of, but at the end of the day, it's business. If you're not living up to your end of the agreement, then, you know, I think it should be dealt with. I think many of our contracts, especially the winter ones for so long, have been, you know, you put in all these overtime and they seem to be exorbitant after a while. So I think we need to tighten our reins and really make sure that we're going over these with a fine tooth comb, and that the work's being done up to par, and also for the residents, meeting residents' expectations. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. And that's a great point too. And with regards to the escalating snow clearing costs to which you referred, we did build in additional framework in this new tender to give us even further additional controls over the work being done, to try to head off some of those additional costs. So I think the goal is always to build in protections that will benefit the municipality and give us as much freedom in the contract as possible. So we'll definitely take that into consideration in future years. And we'll look at tendering earlier, providing additional direction and scrutiny of contractors, and look at multi-year contract possibilities.
Councillor Wadden.
Mr. Chair, I think the residents are looking for some continuity, that they'll know who the person is going in for 2 or 3 years doing the roads. And that's what they're looking for. And if it's not up, certainly if it's not up to satisfaction, we do understand that we have the option of refusing the contractor to do any more work. But I think that multi-year contract, especially for the summer maintenance, gets the work done faster for them. And they're not on the phone constantly trying to see when the work is going to be done. So it's just to give them some confidence in that.
Councillor Elliott.
I just have a question. How many projects that are on the capital plan that are in the same situation, that have been waiting a period of time, and they're still waiting? Are we going to make them a priority as well and move them along? Because I'm sure that other councillors are going to come back and say their projects are waiting as well. Or are we going to make it a priority?
Yeah, we don't have any, thank you, Councillor. We don't have any current road projects on our capital list. And as far as our capital budget, sorry, just as a clarification, are you talking about other projects beyond road projects for capital budget considerations? Things like sidewalks and sewer and water, stuff like that?
My main concern is, are we going to make anything that's been waiting any length of time that's on the capital project a priority if another councillor comes to the table with it?
Yeah. But these are roads that we own, right? So this is just a maintenance contract for the upkeep of those roads through the municipality, right? So
Okay,
it's not to do with the capital.
So it's nothing to do with that?
No.
So if anybody else is waiting for the same type of work on a municipally owned road, will we make that a priority?
They're all, he puts tenders out for all the different roads, and then contractors bid on them, and then they're awarded. So each road either has the same contractor or different contractors.
My question is there any waiting? right now that have been waiting like,
No,
The length of
they've all
time.
been tendered. They all been tendered.
they've all been tendered?
By Logan, yes.
So
This is a road that they're having issues with the contractor not doing a good enough job. I guess that's what. So Logan, for maintenance of a locally owned municipal road, is that grading in calcium chloride and brush clearing, or is it just grading and?
That's correct. It's typically grading, calcium chloride, and brush cutting. Brush cutting, we only do them on average once every 2 years, that kind of thing. And obviously depending on the vegetation, if there's additional work that's needed. And of course, Maple Estates in Abercrombie's are only paved roads, so it takes crack sealing some years, that kind of thing as well. But typically your gravel roads get grading, calcium chloride, and brush cutting, and typically don't get a full reconstruction, but in some areas where we have severe potholing, we would look at deeper reconstruction of those roads as well.
Yeah, go ahead. Just,
My question is there any, I guess I should have used the word contractor. Is there any other roads that have the same problem as Debbie's having with hers through that contractor? And are we going to make them a priority?
We haven't had additional problems with that contractor this year. We had a problem with that contractor last year in Andy's district, and we've had problems with other contractors in Wayne's district at different times. But we do scrutinize the contractors and try to make sure that they are doing good work, and we send them back. I was away, I was off while this work was completed, and our staff had directed the contractor to come back to Hidden Cove. So that's where the additional work had been done to try to bring it back up to a better standard with the potholing that hadn't been fully repaired, that kind of thing. Does that answer your question? Thanks. Yeah, perfect.
just to clarify something, Logan, just for the rest of the council, how many times a year do you have grading done to that road? Is it on as needed, or is it, and how many times do you calcium chloride? I know you can't do that every time a residents holler for it because it's expensive. So.
No, and obviously it's, thank you for the question. It's trying to balance, obviously, the condition of the road versus costs. So we do them at least once a year, and then we'll additionally do them as need be in the fall. Call our fall road maintenance with this, typically with the same contractors, but not when they've done poor work elsewhere. But typically once and then twice if needed. Because some roads we just find that we don't need to do it, like Lakeside and in Larry's never really needs additional work. Some of these roads don't need additional work, but then some of them seem to. Stanwood Drive in Waynes and Maple Oak and Pine seem to need it more often, and Hidden Cove seems to need it more often. For a period of time, Holland Lane seemed to need it more often and needs maybe some different work, but that's another conversation. But yeah.
Okay, Warden Parker.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This brings up, it's to do with one road I know in Debbie's area, but it brings up a lot of issues that we hear from a lot. People get very agitated in a hurry about two things, I think: the timeliness of the work and the quality of the work. And I know in Wayne's area, it used to be in mine, Stanwood Drive, you constantly hear, about, particularly about the calcium. This year, I understand the province had a problem with calcium, didn't have enough, and I think ours comes from them or whatever, but I know the MLA told me they just weren't able to get it for a long time. But I think we need to look at this very closely when we're giving out contracts and we're talking about when to cancel them if they're not doing the quality of work, but we need to hold them more accountable for both their quality of their work and the timeline of their work. Because this year I think we even broke it up some to say that, okay, you're getting the calcium on this road and you're getting, somebody else getting the grading, and it was really the same contractor should be able to do. That's my road to look after and keep it good. But it was broken up this year for the very reason, I think, that one guy was doing a better job of grading or whatever. But a lot of times, by the time the work gets done, I don't know if they were held to it this year or not, but they were to have the work done within 30 days or something, and that is the important thing. Now, the same thing happens with the provincial roads. People are growling all the time that I got no calcium, here it is, middle of August. Or nobody's ditching my road or whatever, so we're not alone. We've only got very few roads. But I think it's something we have to stay on top of. We have to be, winter's the same thing. When it comes, if we're not getting the job done, we need to get that person replaced in a hurry and get somebody in there that can do the job. And then the other thing is, do we have enough contractors that are going to bid on them even to do those jobs? Because some of them have quit and gone on to, they got enough private work otherwise, and they say, I'm not going to bother with that anymore. So this is a big issue, I think, for very few people, really. We don't have very many roads, but on the ones we have, that we're responsible. Nobody else is going to plow them, nobody else is going to grade them. So I think it's something we have to watch very closely on who's doing the work and then hold them to it. Thank you.
Councillor Turner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. A lot of the points that I was going to make have already been brought up, so I won't go through all of them all, but I guess basically it comes down to, in terms of evaluation of, we talked about the quality of work, we talked about the timeliness of the work. Is there a formal process in place regarding how that work is evaluated? Whether the work is done timely, whether the work is done up to quality? Does the Public Works Department have a schedule to go out and monitor these jobs and report back and say that the quality was good, the timeliness was good? How's that administered? And if it's not administered, there is something that you can put in place. And I think if we have some type of evaluation, it'll go a long way of keeping the contractors to their contract.
Yeah, thank you for the question. It is monitored and recorded on somewhat of an informal basis. We do go out and review the work and make sure that we believe it's up to our standards. And we do direct work to be completed if we find it not to be up to our standards. But it's not much more formal than that. We could formalize it more in line with the provincial rating system, but it would just need to be a change in process, and it wouldn't be a big change, but we do monitor and we do review the work, and we do put time frames into our contracts and when the work should be completed. I guess the question comes down to when we put out our contracts, the contractors who respond or don't respond, and then the quality of work that they do complete. So I think, like with our snow clearing tender, which we've modified this year to include some additional information on clarifications on how the work is to be completed, what types of equipment are to be used, I think I would look to use similar updates to our process to improve the process for the summer road maintenance as well.
Okay. So there's motion on the floor. The motion is to tender it earlier and to have a three-year agreement. And if they're not living up to the quality work, then to have a termination clause, I guess. So Councillor McKeel.
Just for clarification on the motion, that we're asking for the contract to have a termination clause in it?
If they're not living up to...
But isn't there already a termination clause in it? That was my question.
Yes, there is.
So it's redundant.
But I think...
Yeah, but it's just adding to make sure that is included.
Sorry, just, I guess my understanding of the termination clause, the proposed termination clause, is to allow for a 2-year contract, or a 3-year contract rather, but to have conditions on maintaining their pricing for the multi-year lifespan of the contract, but have the termination clause to our benefit to be able to terminate it, so we get the value of their pricing, the security on their pricing, but also have the power to terminate. As opposed to right now, we just have single-year contracts, so if they don't do a good job, we can go out and tell them to redo the work, or terminate them if we find they do one road well, and maybe we don't want them to work on another road.
So,
But it's for the benefit of the multi-year
just a point of,
contract.
yeah, so this is more about, it's more about the multi-year contract than it is about the termination. Termination will be included, like they are now. But it's more about having a multi-year contract than it is these single, that's the difference that we're asking for in this motion. Am I correct?
Correct, correct. It's part of, all it is adding, it's going to save staff time by not have to tender it every year and everything like that. And then you get into late calls and things like that. So this way, at least you'll have it, the first year you'll have another 2 years of that agreement that you shouldn't have any issues. That's, Councillor Boyles.
No, I was just wondering when you're saying that, like, okay, if you have somebody for 3 years or whatever, right? Is there, if they want to stop doing it themselves, so they got to give you a certain amount of time, or can they just call you tomorrow and say, we're done?
Well, the idea behind the modification that we made to our winter snow clearing, which is I think the spirit of what we're trying to accomplish here with the summer road clearing, is to say that we do have a contract with them to complete it. So our expectation would be, if they're unable to complete it or unwilling to complete it, that they still have to find somebody else to complete it on their behalf.
Okay, we're going to finish this up. Go ahead, Councillor Elliott.
Are we really here to make a motion on changing a policy or timeframes? Or are we just here to help Councillor Wadden make a decision on, are we going to help people get this road fixed or not? Because if we're going to change things, shouldn't that go to an agenda and then go to a vote and not be in a discussion right now? Because that's not even on the agenda. Like, if we're going to change timeframes for contractors and timeframes and contractors, shouldn't that be on an agenda?
I think our existing...
And come back to council.
Our existing procurement policy is, we follow our procurement policy for the awarding of these contracts. So that's where this type of contract resides. But it's not, we don't have a strict policy on this is how we award road contracts. We just say we have a procurement policy. We're putting these contracts out for proposals from contractors, and then we award them in accordance with our procurement policies. So it's a valid question, I guess, just how we, maybe for discussion, how we are awarding road contracts. But we currently do it in accordance with our procurement policy.
I guess we'll, if the mover and seconder would agree that we'd make a recommendation to staff to go back, have a look at our current policy and come back with recommended changes, and then to move it forward. So Councillor Wadden.
Not as long as they're coming back next month with it. I mean,
What's that?
As long as they come back next month with the proposal.
Yeah.
But it was quite plain in there. I was going to look for a motion to change how we were doing the policy. So, and this is going to benefit not just my one road. It's going to, just as Wayne said, he's got a road with issues. We're all having trouble. If you have a municipally owned road, you're having trouble getting some of the work done in a timely fashion. And it's causing stress on the residents that isn't necessary. You know how we feel whenever we get calls from provincial roads. So this is a municipal road, so.
I'm going to stop it right now because we're going on and on. I think it will come back from staff for our next meeting, a recommendation that we can move forward to the next council for approval. And it will benefit the roads moving forward. Right now, these issues are pretty well going to be over with because the winter's coming and everything like that. So we'll be into a different agreement. So if Logan, could you have a recommendation come back to this committee next month?
Yes, we can prepare a draft road maintenance policy for review next
Yeah.
month.
And that way, all councillors can see it and have it in advance, and then we can vote on it then. Okay?
Question. Call for the question on the motions. That's what I'm calling for.
So. Yeah, I asked for agreement if you want to move, or change your motion. Do you want to change your motion? Okay, the motion's changed so that we have staff come back next committee meeting with a recommendation for the road maintenance for the summer. And does that agree with the seconder? Agreed? Okay. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Count on my nay. Motion carried. Next is the paving entrance of Hidden Cove Road. Councillor Wadden.
Thank you, and I'll try not to have this dragged out as long. Explain it a little better. Anyways, they have a serious concern with the potholes at the end of the road, and when they're coming out of their road or even coming in, they're trying to dodge potholes and get in the driveway, or get out of the driveway, plus the traffic that's on the road. It's an 80-kilometer speed limit along that stretch, and in reality, it's very close to a sharp corner. I'm not sure, like, I do have a letter into Keith McDonald's. He's doing a traffic study there, in fact, for the speed limit on that stretch of road just in front of Hidden Cove. So that's been done. But what the residents would like to see is perhaps the first part of the road get paved. I think we've done that with a road in this area. And just to make it easier so that they're able to pull out onto the road and look without having to worry about hitting potholes. And again, that had to do with the poor quality of grading that was done this summer, but at the same time, if we could send a request to our Public Works to look at the cost of paving the front portion of this road, and maybe just have it available for us when we do our capital plan next year. That's what I'm looking for, that's the motion.
So you're asking staff to have a look
At
at the cost of
Yes.
what it would cost to pave that.
Just to
the
have that
entrance-
information for our
just the
capital plan
entrance
next year.
of the Hidden Cove Road, and then come back with, look at future capital.
Yes.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Moving second. Warden Parker.
I'm in favor of the motion to pave it. It does help, you know, but don't forget, you'll still have the potholes. Because in Wayne's area at Stanwood, you know, now the potholes are just before the apron. When you come down the hill and you come there, so you've still got the same potholes. We still got people calling about how come you don't get rid of these potholes. But, so the potholes just move back 50 or 100 feet or whatever, they don't go away. But it does make it safer when you're pulling out. You're not having to dodge potholes. You're trying to go down the road. So I am in favor of the motion.
Okay. Anybody else? Seeing none, all those in favor, say by saying aye.
Aye.
Counted by nay, motion carried. Next, I'll turn it over to Councillor Boyles.
Go ahead.
This is the Road Trails Act. I'll just give you a little brief background on it. It's, this was brought up to me at the start of the summer, basically. And it's, the province has come out with a policy, or that if you're going from one trail to a store or a service center or something like that, you can designate that part of the highway. There's conditions on that. And then if you're going from there to a trail, you can designate that. So in my area, they're looking at going from where the old railway Thornton Spur was, which is a designated trail, from there up to the Crossroads Country Market and the and Swallow Service Center, so that they can get gas and can go there for meals. There's different regulations if you want to read. They were included in the email Brian sent out. Then the second one is they want to be able to get to the trails that are in McClellan's Mountain. There's no access to those trails right now unless you drive on the road, and you'll see them driving up 347 and heading up to McClellan's Mountain there. So the second portion of that trail is to go down the McClellan's Brook Road, approximately 1.9 kilometers, to a private landowner, and they're given permission to access their land, which access the trails in McCollum's Mountain. So it's, this was a pilot project in 7 areas by the province for 3 years, and it seemed to work well. I'll tell you right now, it's not going to settle the issues that we have with motorcycles and four-wheelers on the road. This is only for the people that abide by the laws. There's a lot of that going on now in my area, that four-wheelers going up and down the roads, flying and that, and we had issues out there for the last 2 summers, so that's not going to stop that, but it's going to at least make it legal for the ones that abide by the law. So, and in order to do this, you can, there's 2 ways. Say the ATV club could ask for approval of this, or it could go through the municipality. So I asked if we put this on the agenda and for the municipality to approve this, so that there'll be signage put up and things like that at no cost. It's done by the province. It's just we just got to designate that we're in agreement of those 2 trails. So I'll make that a motion.
Okay, any questions? Go ahead, Warden.
So I'm not familiar, Randy, with those particular roads, but that doesn't matter. You're allowed to travel on the pavement, then it's not the shoulder in this case. You're allowed to travel on the pavement?
If there's a wide enough shoulder there, you travel on the shoulder, or you can stagger the shoulder of pavement, right?
But
And
you
you
are
can only
allowed.
go a certain speed, so it's not like you can go 50 miles or 50 kilometers an hour. There's a designated speed that you can go, and that's.
And I guess my other question through you, Mr. Chair, is, do these roads have already been approved by the province, and for, like, not every road in the province is approved to do this? Very busy roads, I take it, aren't probably approved, but these roads have been approved by the province?
I think these will meet the regulations of the policy, but it's the province that has the final say in.
We'll say, no, that road's too busy and not let you do it on that one, but so these aren't approved yet, but they'll have to be approved.
We're submitting them to the province for approval.
And
They
you're
can
looking.
come back and say, no.
No, not that one, but this one. And you're looking for our approval as council to say, you know, it's okay with us, then the province has to okay it.
So I'll just go back. We had a meeting at the Thornton Fire Hall, and the RCMP were there, the ATV Club was there, Natural Resources was there. Natural Resources are actually the ones that really look after off-road vehicles and things like that. And they all thought this would be a great thing for the community, right? So they all were in agreement that, and the ones that were at the meeting were people that would use this and respect the conditions of that.
Okay, no, I think it's good that we try in an area, and then if it works out, then I'm sure there's other areas in this county that would be looking for it once we see if we can get it to work in one area first. Thank you.
Go ahead, Larry.
Thank you. Was there consultation with the residents along the road regarding noise or nuisance or anything like that? And did you have any pushback from any of the residents?
No, because those 2 roads are heavily used now by ATVs and four-wheelers, and oh yeah, the residents are complaining, but they wouldn't complain about something like this. They're complaining that they're going on one wheel down the middle of the road. They're doing as fast as their side-by-sides or their motorbikes will take them, but you know, it's an issue, I think, not only in Thornton area, but we probably have the biggest issue, but I think it's out there in pretty well everybody's community that we're having problems with ATVs. They think that, you know, they can travel down the middle of the road at all hours of the night. So there's one that goes by my place every Friday night at 2:30 in the morning. So, but no, the residents, this is is a policy by the provincial government, and as long as we meet those requirements, then they'll approve it, so.
Go ahead, Mary.
I just have a question. We know how the speed limits work for us and those driving vehicles. They don't. So who's going to police the four-wheelers to make sure that there is posted signage that they're going to abide by it? They may still go down the middle of the road, and now they're saying they have the right-of-way. Like at night, who's going to be out there to say where they are on the road? My concern is, who's going to police it? I guess that's it.
Natural Resources and/or the RCMP, but they both have policy that they don't chase, will not chase them, will not engage in chasing, but if they can identify the vehicle or the driver, then they'll go after them after. But they will not chase because of the potential, dangers. Because a lot of these are youth, so they don't want to endanger their well-being. So it's the RCMP and the Department of Natural Resources that look after that police it.
Any other questions? If not, I heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Against me, nay. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Boyles. Next, is there any community announcements? Councillor Boyles.
Yeah, just that on Friday nights, we have our kitchen party is back on. We have this Friday night pass, we had 15 players and 47 people show up, so it was quite a night, and it's $5 to get in if you're just coming in to listen to the music, and you get a lunch provided, or if you're playing, it's no charge for you at all. And it's from 6 till 9. 6:30 to 9, I'm sorry. 6:30 to 9.
6:30 to 9. Okay, Councillor Thompson.
I got a couple things. First, this Saturday, the Plymouth Fire Department's putting on a breakfast. I don't have the exact times, but I'm sure 8 o'clock till they run out, I guess, is what they normally do. And then the next weekend, the Springville Church and Community Hall is having a takeout dinner. So it's $15 a plate. So Chester will be out there. He'll get one for Lori. Lori won't have to cook. So the other thing I got, I gave everybody a poster here. These were given to me by the Aberdeen Health Foundation, Michelle Ferris. They're looking for they're doing a study there, mental wellness and early intervention program. So I encourage you to put it up in your communities, and I only had one for each of you, so if you have more than one community center like I have, you're gonna have to make some copies, but anyways, they're looking for participants. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Dave Parker.
This Saturday evening, 9 to 1 adult dance. Bring your own liquid refreshment, $15 admission. Many items up for silent auction. Lobsters and scallops, believe it or not, even inland. And gravel, firewood, some services. Those are up for bid by silent auction. Should be a good time. And the beneficiary is the Union Center Community Hall. Thank you.
Okay, Warden Parker.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to comment first on this Forbo. I've heard of that program. Pictou County, I believe, is the only place outside of Halifax where this is available, and this is a no-cost program to families with, especially if there's been a history of mental health in the family, but doesn't have to have been a history of mental health. But and no questions asked. You don't need a reference. You don't need a doctor to refer you to this or anything. You can walk in the door, and they'll give you the help that you need. And we have a lot of families in this county that can use, but they're actually, believe it or not, having trouble getting enough participants. Yet they're out there. And so I'm glad Councillor Thompson brought this here tonight, because we need to get it out there more, or they're going to be gone. They'll be to some other county. So we have the advantage right now. There was some connection, I don't know what it was, between the gentleman that runs it and Pictou County, and allowed them to come here first. And the other issue, or the other item, so on Sunday, I guess that's only yesterday now, seems like a longer way. So we had the Terry Fox run in Pictou, and I'm pleased to say that between your help here and a whole lot of other people, I had $3,925 that contributed to the total in there, and I think the total would be well over 10,000 in Pictou. And they announced that they now have raised more than 100,000 in the Pictou runs toward the grand total is huge. The numbers get too big, I don't remember them, but anyway, and all that money goes to research. So hopefully someday we won't be losing people like Jack Ferguson and others in our community, and that's the hope at the end of the pipe anyway. So I thank you, each and every one of you, including councillors and staff, for helping me out on that, and hopefully it helps somebody down the road. Thank you.
Councillor Ward.
Thank you, and thanks to you, Warden, for taking on that endeavor. I think that's a really great job. The fire department, they normally have their plank salmon dinner in August, but this year, because of the burning restrictions, they weren't allowed to have it, so they postponed it, and it's going to be held now October the 20th on Sunday from 3 to 5, and tickets are $25 each.
Okay, Councillor Elliott.
Our thoughts and prayers go to those in River John and the area, to the families and the community in the loss of the 15-year-old boy who I had the experience of having on my school bus. There'll be a benefit dance for Huyton and Rushton families. It'll begin with a silent auction, 7 to 9. Donations are accepted. The phone number to donate is 754-7524, or there's available drop-off at River John Motor Company, right in the village, which is the old Foodland building. And the dance will go September 28th, with a time of 8 to 1. It's a 19-plus event. It's $10 at the door, and donations are welcome. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Elliott. Deputy Warden.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The annual turkey dinner for the Presbyterian Church in Scottsford is this Saturday, and you have to pre-buy your tickets, and they are available online or at A&M Small Engines. Also in Linesbrook this Saturday, there's a soup luncheon at noon, and that's Linesbrook United is online. You got to purchase your tickets beforehand. And also on October the 19th, Scottsburn Rec is having a networking day where all the businesses and anybody that's interested can go. It's something like a meet and greet. So that's at the school from 1 to 4 on October the 19th. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else? Seeing none. Is there any motions of reconsideration? Seeing none. Meeting adjourned. Drive careful.